Hello, Internet user. My name is Gary of Gary's Wares, and I make wooden pipes out of exotic hardwoods. Today, I got a package with wood and stuff. Let's see what I got. Dylan over at Dylan's DIY Workshop wanted to collaborate with me, so he sent me some things, but he also sent me all this wood, and you know, that is so typical of Canadians. You give them your address, and then they send you a bunch of free stuff. They are an aggressively courteous people. Wood wasn't the only thing that Dylan sent. What he really sent were these, and what these are going to be are wooden ones of these, and this is a glass slide for a bong. So this needs to slide in and out like that. Actually, asking around, a decent one of these is real hard to find, so there might be a real market for these kinds of things. I suppose the ideal way to do this would be to do it on a lathe, so you could make it just out of one piece, and then when you're done shaping the male end, you could just drill the bowl with the tailstock of the lathe. But doing it in sections like this does give you a little more options on how to make your bowl. And first, I'm going to start off with this Purple Heart one here. The first one I'm going to make is going to have a little skateboard kind of collar right there between this part and the bowl. Now to plane all the pieces on the belt sander. The final laminate's going to look like this, but in order to do that, I'll have to glue these together first. Here it is after subsequent gluings, and so I just glued these together, and then I glued each of these sides that way, and then glued it like that. So I've marked the center. I'm going to go halfway through the width with an inch wide Forstner bit, and I'm going to go all the way through it with a 3/8 inch Forstner bit. I cut the corners off on the bandsaw, now to shape it on the belt sander. Here it is after initial shaping, and I widened this hole to 5/8 because I realized that if I did it the way I was going to do it, I would have to drill this centered perfectly in the middle of this, and later I would have to drill two tenons centered perfectly of each other, so just, don't want to do that. So here's a bowl blank, and I already drilled through the center of it. I'm going to do this a little differently. Normally I start off with a 5/8 Forstner bit to start a pilot hole, but I'm going to do something a little smaller because I always end up with a little ring going around the edge, and I'm going to avoid that, so here we go. That is a much better way to do it. I got no ring around the bowl. Good. So now to drill the tenons, and this is going to be kind of a pain. A 3/8 inch tenon is what fits in here. However, my 3/8 inch tenon cutter actually fits inside my inch wide tenon cutter, which is going to be a problem because that would leave a little like cylinder, which I don't want. So I'm going to have to use a 5/8 inch bit because that one can't fit inside, and I can't fit the 3/8 inch inside, and so it's kind of a pain, but this is how I have to do it. Well, that's done, but I don't know if it's successful or not, so I have to shape it. That will totally work. Dylan did a really good job. This fits on just perfectly, and it fits. The thing is, if I put it on all the way, it kind of gets stuck, and it feels like I might break it off. And so, good job, Dylan. However, the bowl is not shaped quite right, and if I go to shape it anymore, if I shape into any of this, that could be disastrous. So I took a bit of 2x4 and I made this little collar that fits over it, and that'll help me shape it. Also, I want to get rid of all this ugliness in here. It'll be snug up against the inch wide tenon, but I want to shape that away, and so this is going to help me do that later on. That worked pretty well. I did sand into the tenon a little bit, but I'm not going to mess with that too much. I'll get it in final sanding. Now I'm going to take care of the skateboard laminate. I'm going to round over the back side, and I'm going to do other stuff to it on the oscillating spindle sander. now to do a final sanding, put it all together, glue it, and finish it. And here it is after 2 coats of finish. And it came out really well. I really like this. But guess what? It already sold. Time to make another one. Next up, I'm going to use this oak one that Dylan turned and make something a bit more complicated. I made this bolt action pen a while back. If you'd like to know how, I made a video of that. The link is in the description. So I was trying to carve out the slot on this, and I messed up twice. And so what I did is I drilled a hole with a Forster bit and then stuck a dowel in there and glued it, waited till it was dry, and then sanded away the excess. And that's how I came up with that. And that was a sort of a repair, but I thought if I did that on purpose, I bet I could make it look really good. So this next slide is going to be made with my tenon cutters and Forster bits, and I'm going to do this sort of operation, but I'm going to do it with dowels that are made from skateboards. These circles are all different sizes. The one in the middle is 1 inch. Toward the edge, it's 3/4, and on the outside, it's 5/8, and the big circle is 1 inch and 5/8, which will be the total diameter of the slide. In the middle is going to go solid cherry, but before that goes in, these are going to go in here into this just block of 2x4 that I glued together. So I'm going to make laminates from skateboards. I'm going to use tenon cutters to make dowels. I'm going to drill the holes, and I'm going to stick the dowels in there, sand them over, do it over and over and over, then sand away all this 2x4, and then what I'm left with will be the slide. So here we go. The grip tape's been removed, now to plane all the pieces. The pieces have been planed in some of these little chunks of scrap wood, and they're going to be glued onto here and clamped, and when the tenon comes down, it's going to go into the scrap wood a little bit, and the scrap wood is going to let the vise grab onto it as well. So these 4 are going to be these 4 3/4 inch dowels here. This is going to be the bowl, and underneath of that is going to be some pieces of skateboard. After this is drilled and I shape it out of here, I'm going to take 3 of these pieces and glue it onto here, and then cut the tenon from that. These pieces I'm going to cut long ways, but these I'm going to stack and do it that way. These are going to require a little bit more attention. After much gluing and clamping, the laminates have been glued and clamped. Now to cut out the plugs. Okay, what happened here was the excess laminate came off around the tenon cutter and got stuck, which obviously slowed things down because the corners are kind of hard to plane, and I didn't use enough glue or whatever. It happened. So my first impulse was just grab the laminate and just turn on the drill press and just pull it off. That obviously was wrong. So don't do that. So I got a glove and a mallet, and I pounded it out, which is probably the best way to do that kind of thing. And so then I took some food wax and I lubed up the inside of the tenon cutter, and the rest of the plugs were cut without incident. The plugs have been cut and they look pretty cool. Next, I'm going to start drilling here. I'm going to drill these out first. It's going to be these. These are going to go in first, and then the outside ones and the middle one. Here's a blank after 2 plugs, and I was going to do all 4 of them at once. However, they touch right here, and if I don't get it exactly right, there's either going to be a gap or they're not going, this one of the plugs isn't going to fit, which would necessitate a lot of annoying filing, and I'm going to avoid that by doing 2 and then 2. The other, these I could do all at once. I cut the excess of the plug off on the bandsaw, and I didn't do a very good job, as you can see, and I think next time I'm going to use a tenon saw, but I sort of expected this, and I took an X-Acto knife and made the lines that intersect at the middle of the circles. That way I can redraw it quickly and that kind of thing. So now to do those 2 plugs. Right, that's done, and I've gone ahead and remarked the centers of the circles because I knew it was going to get dirty, like I said. So now to do the outside circles. That's done. Now to drill the one in the middle. that's done, and that was successful. Except for this little sliver here. I'll be able to shape that out, but that's kind of annoying. So now to drill the bowl, I'm going to drill an 1/8 inch hole all the way through two and 3/8 down to here, so or something. 1/4 inch pilot hole, and then 5/8 inch core box bit down to a depth of 1 inch. And that's done. I went ahead and cut off the back, and I shaped it down to where the middle plug meets the back. And I took some more skateboard and I glued it on here. And then I'm going to take a tenon cutter and make a tenon. I tried gluing the skateboard segments to this and then drilling the tenon, but that didn't work. And so what I'm going to do, so I took this cherry dowel and I glued it into here, and that will be the air passage. So I'll drill this and then I'll cut it out and shape it, and I'll see what this thing finally looks like. So now the slide has the basic diameter, and it can be shaped and glued together and given a final sanding. Here it is finished, and it looks really good. I really like it, but it is a little off center, which annoys me. I mean, when you put this much work into it and it's a little off center, it kind of sucks. But it works just fine, you know. I mean, there's the air passage and it fits right into the thing. But, you know, pay extra close attention when you're drilling. I wanted to make one more for this video, but this video is getting too long. I mean, there's all kinds of things you could do, so long as you have a bowl that has made of a wood that's suitable. This is cherry. Then you can do pretty much anything you want. And so that's that. Normally, I make wooden pipes out of exotic hardwoods, and now definitely skateboards. If you'd like to check me out on Facebook, please do so. And I'm on Instagram, and subscribe to my channel, etc. and so on. My name is Gary, and I'm out.